Hi, my name is Ashley Raj. I'm really excited to make it to second semester with all of you, and definitely can say this is definitely one of the courses I'm very excited to learn about with all of you guys. So I don't have any direct experience with embalming or within directly a prep room, but however, from our readings, I was so intrigued to see some of the similar processes done for the deceased that I've actually experienced while working as an ICU technician in the hospital while handling someone who's passed away on the ICU unit. We were also provided post-mortem kits, so I have a little bit of experience with those, which kind of correlated a lot when I was reading just like the little step-by-step processes that you do for the deceased while embalming, but instead it's in a hospital setting, so it's like not the same, but kind of the same. So it discussed in the process of embalming and handling the care of the deceased about universal precautions and PPE being necessary, and of course identification. Absolutely, PPE, I definitely was big on that, and it was required, OSHA laws, within the hospital setting, so I do have experience with that while handling the deceased. Also with identification, that was definitely the first thing done, like check their wristbands, compare it to their patient charts, their patient barcodes. Within the post-mortem kits, there was also the toe tag that you'd have to also ensure, put the patient barcode on there so everything correlates perfectly, no identity confusion. Also, aside from PPE and identification, we also record the time of death, but I'm sure it's obviously different since this is the embalming procedure, but just correlating. Obviously, it discusses in our readings about preparation of the body, and from my experience while handling the deceased, that kind of correlated with this is, we'd have to, it depends on if the family member was present at the time of the person passing, upon identifying and documenting everything that we needed to do, notifying of the family, getting complete authorization to, whether it be even things such as if they were wearing personal clothing when they passed within the ICU room, do they want us to remove them, and can we have permission to bathe them and put them in a hospital gown is what we had to provide. We also had scrubs that we could offer. It was all on family personal preference, so whatever they authorized us to do in that sense, we would definitely do. Once we got their authorization, whether the family was on their way to meet us at the hospital and spend some time with their loved one before we would take them down to the morgue in the hospital for temporary storage, we would ensure that everything was clean, head to toe, bed sheets, everything. The deceased person would get a full chlorhexidine bath. It's one of the stronger bathing soaps that's supposed to help kill bacteria and organisms and stuff like that. We wouldn't per se pack any orifices, but obviously we'd make sure as best as possible to, if there was any leakage of anything out of orifices, we would best try to maintain that with cotton or hospital rags of some sort that was in a responsible or respectful manner. Anything that was removed personal effect-wise, valuables, clothing, any of that is all documented right there with always two people in the room, whether it be a nurse and the technician, two technicians, or as long as there's two people, they all have to sign off on it. Documentation is key, and all valuables and clothing and personal effects are locked up, and when the family is ready to pick them up, it's there available to them and in a safe spot. What else? So, aside from a lot of documentation, within the post-mortem kits, actually, I thought it was interesting to, during the readings within the embalming procedure, it mentions how there's certain ways and methods to ensure the closure of the mouth and the eyes. Well, again, it's a hospital post-mortem kit, so I just thought it was interesting to see this, because I was like, oh, wow, throwback. So they gave us this device that you would strap around the jawline, the mandible, and goes around the head, so it would help in case their jaw was extended. as for the eyes, there was a clear filmed tape, almost like a tegaderm in a sense, that you could place gently over any attributes of like arthritis, like with their hands or their legs or any other conditions like that. We definitely would make sure to reposition, move in multiple directions, flex, and also we had special blocks that you could place in someone's hands that were curled in like this to help kind of like alleviate the tension on like the constricted hands. We also had blocks for like the legs to help keep, the positioning and everything like that, which I thought was kind of interesting, correlated with the whole embalming process from my personal experience. Another thing, definitely, after washing and dressing and documentating and contacting the family prior to them being able to come in the room, just to make sure they're presentable. We would also ensure, even just like the little things that would matter is like, the bed sheet, it's not like pulled up all sloppily, like you have a nice little gentle fold, arms are like placed out properly, just overall a very presentable look. And with the utmost care and dignity and respect throughout the entire process. And I can't imagine what these families are going through, losing a loved one like that. And I would hope that if it was my loved one, I'd hope that coming into a room like that, I would hope to see my family member very well treated. After the family would get their time with their loved one, we would then, pick up cues. It's whenever they're ready and they were ready to let us, finish moving them from the room down to the temporary morgue. And we would also ensure to ask them, are you of any religious background? If you are, would you be interested in any of the priests that we have available that are on call right now? And would you like to do almost like a little ceremony, and we can have the priests do a blessing or a reading, and whether it be in the room or as we could all walk down together to the morgue. Whatever wishes that we could try to accommodate them best is what we really tried to do. And within that process, if they wanted to walk down with us, from the time we moved them from A to B to the morgue, we would place a clean white sheet over it. Also, I worked at Alexian Brothers Medical Center, so we had a Alexian Brothers Crest special blanket that would go directly over that to make it more proper. And we would all walk down together with the family, and sometimes they might need to stop, and we just, we kind of just felt it out as, they needed a minute in the hallway, we just pull up the side and let them do what they needed to do. Hospital, just like the embalming procedures that we were learning about, documentation. So we actually had to call a security officer who was the only one that had access to the morgue at the time, and so he would meet us down there, and it would be then a double verification. So he would check the identity with me from the proper paperwork, the tags, everything like that. There was a refrigerant log that we both have to sign off on, giving certain information, name, time of death, date, who we are, who's going to be responsible for picking them up, any contact information that we could provide, just to ensure that they know, who's coming in and out and all that, and also to ensure the integrity of the identification and dignity of the body. I just find it overall really interesting to kind of correlate some of my experiences in healthcare in the ICU when it came to handling the deceased, because I think that's the closest I've actually come to being able to do this kind of line of work in a sense. But it's really awesome to see how much it kind of does correlate, because that just makes me happy that I can see that all professions really do care about the integrity and respect and just the general human being kindness in such sensitive situations, and just being a genuine empathetic human being for all. That's how I'd want to be treated, so it's cool to see this. I'd say I'd have to be rather surprised because I didn't realize that there was 4 different treatment classifications for embalming. I understood embalming was a chemical process to preserve the body for a temporary amount of time, but I was like reading it up just like, oh, this isn't just like surface embalming, like, oh, I thought it was injection only. This is cool. More you know. Okay, like, alright. So very interesting to see that, 'cause that's definitely something I was not aware of, and look forward to learning more on. I kind of already figured that there was going to be various rules, laws, and regulations. Working in healthcare for about 6-7 years, like, there's a lot of laws, a lot of OSHA, a lot of everything, so something new to learn, but I see a lot of the correlation. I also assumed that there would be some various authorization forms involved. I mean, that's definitely something that I like correlate from even working in healthcare and even from like our cremation class. Like, I figured there would be authorization forms of all sorts, but I mean, wow, I did not realize that there was so many separate individualized authorization forms. That was actually pretty cool. Like from restorative and cosmetic care, minimum care services, preparation, donation, cases for viewing, and the one that really got me was the authorization for viewing when not advised against by the funeral home. Very interesting, but I mean, yeah, you gotta be that detailed. Very cool. So what I've gathered from our brief readings, so chapters 1 and 2, is overall the general idea of the process. It's clear as funeral professionals, we definitely are to treat the deceased and the family with the utmost professionalism and preserve the dignity and respect in all we do. Obtaining proper authorization forms and ensuring that we work close with the families to know what their wants, their wishes are in regards to the preparation of the deceased, and never to assume anything. That's just no. Like, I've learned that in healthcare. Like, when I would work in ICU, you just don't assume. What can we do for you, and give them options if they don't know. Such as like even the embalmer asking for, like, you know, photos of like what does your loved one look like, you know, just getting ideas so you know how to properly prepare them to restore them into that body image that they'll be presentable and not offensive to the family. I actually, now that I think about it too, since I didn't realize that, like, I thought injection was, like, the only form of embalming, so since, like, I didn't think about that, and now I'm learning that, I'm like, oh, wow, like, I didn't even think about how, like, the various, like, embalming procedures and techniques and methods that are used versus it be a body that is not been autopsied, or if there was an autopsy done, or if it's a body that's to be donated to medical schools for research. There's just different methods of prepping the body if certain areas, organs of the body have been removed or affected by trauma, or certain even requirements of the body being embalmed a certain way, such as the bodies that will be used for dissection by medical colleges and schools that, you know, wouldn't allow for cavity embalming. That's rather interesting, so it's very diverse, and I really look forward to diving in deeper with all of you guys. It's been very interesting just for day 1, so cheers.